Hi, welcome to Reads with Lauren. I'm Lauren and it's great to chat with you today. Today I really wanted to have a chat with you about the book series that I am hoping to finish in the year of 2024. I have a few listed here and I'll just go through them quickly with you. I'll start by going through the graphic novels that I'm working through and then slowly go through the other series. Now, some of them I have mentioned before, so this won't be an in-depth breakdown of all of the books or, a massive explanation of the storyline, but I thought this would just be a fun way to show you guys where I'm at with some of the series that I'm reading and what I'm looking at finishing this year. So we'll start off with the graphic novels and the manga. So this year I decided to take the plunge and start Saga. So I have been looking at Saga over the last few years and there are 11 volumes that have been released so far, as well as, bigger books that have volumes 1 to 3, volumes 4 to 6, etc., as well as a compendium of books 1 to 9. I have been so intrigued in and want to buy the compendium volumes 1 to 9, but I was really worried that I wouldn't enjoy it. So took the plunge and I have the first 3 volumes. I've read them, I've enjoyed them. I would really like to continue this series. Saga is about a couple that is actually running from the authorities due to the fact that they are sort of like a Romeo and Juliet-esque relationship. They're not meant to be together. They're from 2 different sides, and in turn they've ended up having a baby, which is where it opens. And it's been really interesting so far, so I'm really looking forward to reading more. The next series that I'd like to finish is the Death Note series. I've got the Black Edition volumes 1 to 5, which I have read and thoroughly enjoyed. I am a big Death Note fan. I've also watched the anime and I have watched the Japanese live action, which I loved. The American one was not great, so we pretend that doesn't exist. But I need to purchase volume 6 and I need to finish this series. So if you're not aware of Death Note, basically one of the gods of death was bored. So he decided to drop his Death Note onto planet Earth. The main character, Light, picks up said Death Note and realizes that if he writes people's names into the Death Note, they then proceed to pass away. So it's a very interesting series. He starts attempting to use this power for good, which means that he is going after criminals. So despite the fact that he feels that he is doing the right thing, the police obviously consider that this is a murderer, and so they are investigating him and they bring in a character, L, who is just as smart as Light, just as clever as Light, and they end up in this battle between brains. It's wonderful. They're incredibly smart characters. They do things I wouldn't even have fathomed. And yeah, it's just an amazing battle of wills and minds, and I highly recommend it if you haven't already read the books. If you're not necessarily interested in manga, I do highly recommend the anime. However, if that's not something you're into, the Japanese live action is a great starting point. The next series that I'd like to finish in the manga graphic novel area is Monster. I have the first 4 volumes here of the Perfect Edition. There are 5 more volumes. I've read all 4 of these. I absolutely love them. I'm hoping to be able to pick up and finish this series this year. This is about a Japanese doctor who has moved to Germany, and at the start he is working for this very well-renowned hospital. He is engaged to be wed to the daughter of the hospital chief, and he decides to make a very brash, very abrupt decision based on his morals and values, and it kind of kicks him in the behind. So I'll try not to give you too much more than that. It's a really interesting series. It's one of my favorites, so I'm really excited to finish reading it. And I also really want to finish the anime because I've only worked partway through that. Obviously, I wanted to read it first. The next manga series that I'd really like to continue is the One Piece. So these are the first 5 of the omnibus. It runs through the East Blue storyline and the first of the Baroque works. So there's 3 volumes within each of these books. This is a great manga series. It's one of my kids' favorites. I have been really thoroughly enjoying it. There are 108 volumes, and in the omnibus we've got 33. So It feels like a big job to get through those, as I've only gotten through the first 5, but it's something I'd definitely like to continue, and the new TV show is really great if that's one you want to check out. So One Piece centers on Monkey D. Luffy. He is a young man who has decided he wants to be the Pirate King. However, he is not the smartest tool in the shed, and he is also far too kind-hearted. So adventures that he goes on where he is building up his pirate team and trying to become the Pirate King are actually quite hilarious. He fights a lot of different pirates who think he's absolutely ridiculous. And in his young age, he also ate from the gum gum fruit, which means that his entire body is rubber-like, which means he can stretch all of his body parts. So the fighting is quite hilarious, and it's really well worth a read. I really enjoy them, so I'd like to finish these. I don't know that I'll get all 33 of the omnibus done this year, but it would be a great goal to achieve if I manage to. And of course, it's not a book video without talking about the absolute god of fantasy, and that is Brandon Sanderson. So I am partway through the Mistborn Wax and Wane series. This is book 2, which I'm hoping to start in the next few days, Shadows of Self. It is 4-book series. The Lost Metal was released last year, and that finalized this era of Mistborn. So we have the first era of Mistborn, which was set 300 years previously to this one. And this series is sort of set in like a Western, sort of steampunky kind of era. And I really want to finish these because era 3 is set in like the early computer age. So sort of like the 1980s sort of computer technology. So that's going to be really exciting. So this is definitely on the cards. Book 2, I'd like to finish it ASAP. The main characters, Wax and Wane, are hilarious together. There is a lot of banter, a lot of dynamics that are really funny. And it's just kind of a really kick-ass sort of Western pew-pew book, but that's not normally my thing, but I love it. I love Brandon, and he manages to make any sort of theme really work for me. So that will be very high priority. And then I am hoping to finish the Stormlight Archive series. So far, there are 4 books, with the 5th book being released this year. I am up to book 3. This is part 1 of book 3. The books are very chunky, so this is actually technically half of one of the books. Putting both of them together, this is the size of book 3, and they've all been around the same size. So technically I have read 4 500-page books in this series, about to start the 5th, but I am on book 3. So super pumped that book 5 is coming out this year. I'm hoping that when it releases, I will be up to date so that I can move on to that one. But yes, great series, one of his best. If you want an epic fantasy with a lot of political intrigue, kings, royalty, magic, this is awesome. It's an awesome series. I can't recommend it enough. Brandon Sanderson is a genius, and I will not hear otherwise. Another series that's been mentioned a lot on this channel, and that is the St. Mary's Chronicles. I'm currently working my way through one of the short stories. So in total, there are 14 books in the actual series so far, with 22 short stories sort of interspersed in between. I've worked my way through 10 of the 14 books, and I'm 14 through the 22 short stories. So there is a lot. It might seem daunting, but they are very quick paced. They're very funny. I have gone on about them a lot. So yeah, I won't go too much into them in this video, but they are a great series. They are time travel books. However, the organization does not call it time travel. They call it recording evidence in contemporary time. So they go back, they record what actually happens so that they have this on record. However, it very rarely goes to plan. It is so funny. It is British. It gives me serious Terry Pratchett vibes. So worth the read. Quickly moving through that series, I also would like to read The Time Police, which is sort of a spin-off series from St. Mary's. I read book 1 before reading the St. Mary's Chronicles and realized that I was missing a whole lot of backstory. So I then went back and started St. Mary's, which I am flying through, and I'm really excited to reread book 1 of The Time Police. There are 4 so far, with a 5th about to be released this year, and a short story as well. She tends to write short stories around Christmas time, as well as a couple of extra ones, and generally they're for a charity or they're free online. So They're a great series to get into, and the Time Police spin-off was, I really enjoyed the first book. I can't wait to get into them, having now read St. Mary's Chronicles, because I'll now have the backstory. So really excited to get moving with those. Another book series that I am 7 books into, there's 16 books in the series and I would love to continue them, and that is the Devery Cycle by Catherine Kerr. These are broken into 4 different acts. And I've read Act 1, the Devery Cycle, and I am 3 into Act 2 of the Westland series. They are based around the people of Devery. So in the first book, you start with Nevin. He's a travelling herbal, but he also has Dwemer talent. And when he was a young man, he was engaged to be wed to a woman who also had this Dwemer talent. However, things occurred in her life that led to her demise and not being able to follow this path. So Nevin then decides that he will not rest until he has met her reincarnation and is able to set her on the right path to ensure that she is able to learn this Dwemer ability. There are many different reincarnations for each character that you are introduced to throughout the years. It goes into different time periods, so it can get a little bit confusing. However, it is a fascinating book series, and I've really enjoyed reading them so far. I was recommended them by a wonderful old work colleague, and yeah, I only got 7 books in before taking a bit of a break so that I could get back on the Brandon Sanderson train, but this year I really want to finish those ones. The next book series that I'd really like to finish this year is the Wheel of Time series. So I have read the first 3 books in the series. I have to admit that Robert Jordan's writing style does tend to put me to sleep. I think it's because it is such a calming and relaxing sort of writing style. However, that is why I haven't continued the series thus far. But in saying that, I really would like to, because if you're not aware, Robert Jordan passed away in 2007 and Brandon Sanderson finished the series for him. So there are 14 books. He wrote the first, I believe, 10, and Brandon followed on from there with the notes that Robert had in place. So it's a series I really want to get into. Some people tell me that you have to sort of push through from book 3 and book 4, and around 5, 6, 7 is when it really perks up. So I really need to push myself to get back into this series, but it's one that I would really like to finish because obviously I would like to read all of Brando's work. So yeah, Wheel of Time, I've read the first 3, I want to continue the rest this year. And the last series that I'd really like to finish this year, technically I don't know if you could call it a series, but I kind of count this as it was a prequel that has been released since, and that is the Legends and Lattes books. So Legends and Lattes, I read the first book last year. I absolutely loved it. Such a beautiful, cozy fantasy. And Travis Baldry has now released a prequel called Bookshops and Bone Dust. And this one looks really funny. I know that it is going to have a different vibe because in Legends and Lattes, the main character, who is an orc, has decided to retire from hunting and battling, whereas in Bookshops and Bone Dust, I believe that she is having to stay behind unwillingly due to an injury. So I'm sure that the headspace will be different for the main character, but Legends and Lattes was just so incredibly good, and I cannot wait to jump into Bookshops and Bone Dust. Legends and Lattes is basically all vibes, no plot, you know. But I love bookstores, and I think that this should hopefully give the same sort of vibe. If not as cozy, hopefully still enough to kind of satisfy that need, because it's very hard to find other cozy fantasies like Legends and Lattes. And that's it. That's all of the series that I'm hoping to finish this year. There are definitely other series that I've started over the years that I am sure I will move back to eventually, but these are like the highlights, the top ones that are, you know, really on my radar. If you have started a book series and you'd like to finish it this year, please let me know in the comments. If you've read any of these book series, please also let me know what you thought of them. If you decided to continue, or if you dropped the series, why? I'd love to know why. And that's it from me. So I am looking forward to seeing you in the next video, which will be very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, sending you loads of love, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye, darlings.